It's your pal, DJ Val. I am waiting for my buddy, Texas Slim. He is actually doing another live stream right now. And so we had scheduled this, but we're going over a little bit. So it's okay. So I thought I'm going to talk to y'all about uh, food sovereignty and all the good things of like why we need to fix the food, fix the money, and fix the world. And so Texas Slim is really cool. I can't wait for you guys to meet him. He's super fun. And oh, hey, by the way, this is DJ Valerie V Love, the Vibe Goddess, and this is the Bitcoin Peace and Music Podcast. Really, really cool stuff happening. And I'm meeting some really, really amazing humans in the Bitcoin world. And we're talking a lot about food and food sovereignty and why is that so important. I've got another wonderful guest tomorrow, Tim Clark. And he's been working with Dr. Bronner. And I'm super excited to interview you, Tim. Woohoo! Tatush! We're going to have so much fun talking about what your projects are. And, you know, what's going on right now in the world is we're having a lot of food issues. And for those of you who are watching this maybe on Facebook or LinkedIn or YouTube, a lot of the people on Twitter I find kind of have a clue of what's going on. And unfortunately, the people that I'm, interacting with and following on these other platforms, it seems like there's two completely different worlds going on. Literally, there's like the Bitcoin world, and then there's like the art Burning Man cool world over here that I'm a part of. And, I'm like kind of straddling two worlds, right? And I think it's so interesting because, one of the reasons I started this podcast was because I want to learn more about Bitcoin. And the more that you like get to talk to people and ask questions and then share what you know, it becomes more solidified into your being, right? So I thought, what better way to learn than to do a podcast? And of course, loving peace and music and art and personal development and spirituality. I was like, perfect. I'm going to fuse all of these together. And of course, business. I love business and entrepreneur, just goodness. I love creating and innovation and everything. It's really, really exciting to me. And so, but what I'm concerned about as a friend, as a co-human on the planet, is like the disconnection from reality of what's going on in the world and what people actually are talking about and what they know about what's going on. Unfortunately, mainstream media is hijacking our minds, and it's grabbing our attention, of course, with all the fear and the FUD and all the bullshit. And what I think is interesting is it's like literally two worlds. Like every time I go on Facebook or Instagram, and I've just started getting my booty back over there. It's either just like la 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 fairy dust and good things, and then anti-abortion or pro-abortion or anti-guns or pro-guns or anti-COVID stuff, pro-COVID stuff, and those are kind of the main topics that people are talking about. They're not talking about inflation. They're not talking about money. They're not talking about what's about to happen in this giant financial collapse that we're facing. And that kind of terrifies me because this beautiful community of humans that I love and am a part of, I feel like they don't know what's going on. And if they do, unfortunately, it's probably misinformation because it's mainstream stuff. And then the Twitterverse over here with the Bitcoiners, I love my Bitcoiners. And there's a really good microcosm within the Bitcoin community that it's really starting to get into, that I'm noticing anyways, is really into consciousness and spirituality and how to really, take our lives to the next level through different types of practices and whatnot. And how does Bitcoin fit in with that? And so I love listening to different people like John Vallis. I love, of course, Gigi. My buddy Chief Monkey is super fun. I like learning what you're up to, buddy. And all of these great humans that are really taking the conversations forward, from a macro point of view. Eric Kaysen, love you, brother. And so it's really, really fun to fuse the two things because they matter. And what I see happening for this cataclysmic event that is unraveling is there's going to be a lot of shrapnel. There's going to be a lot of damage. There's going to be a lot of pain and suffering for people who are not prepared. And ideally, we can help folks along before the crisis actually happens, but unfortunately, and speaking from experience, like sometimes we have to be in the midst of a crisis to wake the fuck up and realize like we have been lied to. We have been running a false operating system in our beliefs. We've been listening and being programmed by this mainstream bullshit that's out there. And it sucks. And so we have to kind of do our own version of, we have to go through the pain, and I just had a really, really wonderful interview yesterday with Decrim Nature, and her and I were just like, woo, let's do this. We're talking about decentralized psychedelics and what's the difference between decriminalization and legalization of psychedelics. And it was a great conversation, one of many, many more that we're definitely going to have. And I think it's a really important conversation to understand because from a medicinal point of view, psychedelics are useful for PTSD, for trauma, for depression, and all sorts of different maladies that pretty much everybody has to one degree or another, depending on what day of the week, month, year it is. And sorry, I'm still kicking the vid. Thank goodness I got most of this energy back. Thank you, God. I love you so much. And anyway, it is really important that we have the conversations, though, about what are the use cases for medicines that have been banned by our government a while back, because they're afraid that when we expand our consciousness, guess what? We're not going to want to, swallow your bullshit anymore. And the government knew that. And so they decided to just blanket illegal everything. And so now what's happening is people are realizing like these actually they're not just party things. They're not, just for, I mean, sure, yay, Woodstock, let's go drop some acid and everything, yay. But it does create a revolution in your soul and a revolution in your spirit and your heart. And so to me, having experiences over the years has been very profound and powerful with psychedelics and different types of medicines. Certainly there's cases where it's been just for fun and partying, and there's cases where it's like, no, this is actual, like, I am rearranging my whole operating system inside. I call it my vibrational operating system. And I think it's a really cool renaissance that's happening. And because of social media and because of the ability for us to communicate with each other, share stories, talk with these shaman, go visit the shaman in their indigenous areas. It's bringing forth that wisdom because our planet needs it right now. We need food intelligence. We need plant medicine intelligence, and plant medicine in the form of entheogens and psychedelics to help transform our consciousness, and plant medicine in the form of food and what we're eating. And so Texas Slim and I have had a couple really, really cool conversations, and we're just talking about this tour that he's going to be doing. And it's a really cool tour, and it's helping me remember about, oh, right, why am I going to the grocery store supporting these big chains, when I could go get a beef box from my local rancher? Why am I going and getting my vegetables? Oh, yay, they're Slim. When I could be getting it from a CSA. Yo, Slim, what's up?
How's it going? Sorry, I'm running late. I'm a very punctual person, but not today.
Dude, I know you got a lot going on, so no sweat. Hi, honey. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm good to see you, Val.
You
As
too.
always, your smile is always perfect. It's amazing. I'm serious, man. You bring so much energy and spirit. It just makes me happy.
Aw, you're making me blush.
Well, I'll try harder then.
Ah, you're my soul brother from another mother. What's
There you
up?
go.
So,
How are
okay,
you?
I was just kind of prepping everybody and chit-chatting about, what is food sovereignty? Why do we need it? And I really would rather have you explain it than my little brain,
Sure.
but I want to share with everybody what you're up to. And hey, Texas Slim, welcome to the Bitcoin Piece of Music podcast. And I know you're about to get on the road
Mhm.
for an adventure, and I can't wait to like help share your journey and share your story with everybody
Yeah.
and see what's happening. So let's talk about what you've got going on.
Well, let's start and give some people some backstory on this. You and I kind of you said, we're soul brother and sister right now, right? And that happened naturally and organically because we come from a time where we had some freedom in our lives, more so than is being allowed right now with this prohibition of personal space and of sovereignty. And
Hmm.
I noticed this a couple of years ago for sure. And I've been around the around in the world a couple of times. I've had an amazing travel log of life, and I've just seen through, in society as a general, there's a lot of things that is happening now that a lot of people don't understand. They can't reflect back on the times that we had when we were younger, like 20s, 30s, and 40s. We're not gonna date ourselves too much, but but there was things happening in this world and in lifestyles that's just not happening right now. The perspective is not there. The reflection is not there. The desire is not there. If the desire is there, nobody knows how to approach it. So by noticing all of this, the people that I've kind of brought into my life, into this space that is the beef initiative, that is the Bitcoin world, everything that we're doing, it is happening organically and naturally. And that's how I look at everything with food now. If you're not looking at a good market access to natural, organic, holistic ways of basically sourcing your food, then you're being captured in a way either from your health or from your mental capacities or even with your monetary and your basically your nutritional values.
Hmm.
So a lot of people don't realize I've been doing this for about 2 years. I've been traveling around the country off and on for 2 years. I embedded myself into a harvest company. I come from ag and ranching, in the Texas Panhandle. I'm a seventh generational Texan. My grandparents
Wow.
stewarded this land. We came here a long time ago. We came from the Tennessee and the South Carolina region, but it's a legacy thing for me. It's a heritage thing, and I knew that we needed to take a step back before we could go forward. And so what I wanted people to understand is that we need a new form of food intelligence so we can have a new
Hmm.
form of food security. And that security, the statement of security, means within our own lives, but within our own communities, within our own tribes, within the groups that we choose to hang out with, to groove with. You and I have a groove, and so
Hmm.
there's something there. It's like getting back to the source of the seed of where we came from, and reflecting on that legacy, that heritage, that lifestyle that is being missed out on right now. So that's kind of the long and short. I can go into the details. It's fascinating, being in a harvest company, nobody knowing what the hell I'm doing there, and all the time I'm doing research, I'm picking touch points, I'm doing some investigation because I'm a research analyst. That's what I did in technology.
Oh,
And so I
cool.
know how to
Okay.
get some a little bit better than most people do. So it's just not a Google search here. This is boots on the ground, and this is actually, I get stuff from all over the world right now as far as, input. What's going on with our macro environment in our global food supply. There's an industry shift that is happening in our food supply, especially in the United States, that is basically leading us to nutritional starvation, is what I like to say.
Wow. That's a lot to
It is.
digest, and and hopefully we will not be starved listening to you, of course.
No,
but
we're
but
we're we're
but
we're we're creating solutions here.
we are, and I really feel like, right before you hopped on, I was kind of talking about the different, you know, that you're a bridger and I'm kind of a bridger of these different worlds, and I was addressing the folks over on, on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn, and the areas that aren't the folks who are not privy to Bitcoin Twitter. And to me,
Yeah.
Bitcoin Twitter has really opened my eyes to like, whoa, this is really going on, and there's a lot more truth out there that I have not been, uh, you know, looking at in the right lens, you know. And so for the last year, I've been kind of like in this wake up mode, right?
Right.
And I have a huge concern, as I know you do too, for the well-being of our fellow citizens of the whole planet, not just the United States. Um, and food is such a big part of that. And I was commenting on like people are not having the same conversations at all on these other
Mhm.
platforms that they're having on Twitter. And I'm concerned that it's like we have these two different realities going on. And I'm sure there's many more. I say two, but obviously this is just my perspective from my, people that I'm, following and involved with. But like, how do we open up these conversations in a way that are appealing and compassionate and meeting people where they're at on their, awareness journey of why it's important, like to know your rancher? Why is it important to, you know, understand about your soil and what is I never say the word
Yeah,
regenerative
it's a tough
ranching
one,
and
right.
farming. I know I'm a tongue twister there, but how do we have those conversations? So, is it just a one by one thing? Is it a one to many? What's this? How do we help people kind of
One
get
thing,
that
yeah,
wake up?
it's kind of a chess game, it's a mental chess game. And how do you approach somebody? Because it is about, the self, the person, the self. And I always say there's no judgment going on here. I mean,
Right.
this is not about judgment saying you're doing it right, you've done it wrong. No, all of us are privy to being a part of it, to complying with certain things that we probably shouldn't have when it comes to food, being
Mhm.
ignorant, about labels, just being ignorant about nutrition overall. And I always ask people, I tell them this all the time. It's like, I'm going to live rent free in your head. And it's either going to be good or it's going to be, negative probably, but it's going to be a reflection of who you are in your consumption model. So what I do is playing the chess game that I do is like, let's look at your consumption model, consumption of food, audio, and video. What are you
Mm,
consuming? And then let's do a breakdown of that. What does your consumption model profile look like? Why do you desire what you desire? Let's get to the source of the seed of why you do desire. And then once that happens, you can start understanding that there's a conversation there that people are either willing to have with you or they're going to walk away. And I want everybody to have that conversation. I want people to say, okay, I'm willing to look at the source of the seed of why I eat, why I eat. Is it because it tastes good? Is it because it's an excellent form of protein? Is it because it's the only thing that I've ever really known to eat? It breaks down really fast. And whenever the individual is ready to have that conversation of what is the source of the seed of their desire, they can start basically getting a base layer value of a understanding of what true food intelligence is. And if you're willing to do that, there is a protocol, there's a pathway, there's a roadmap. And it starts with, I wrote a Substack, I've written almost a book within that Substack. We have the podcast, we have the Beef Initiative now that is getting to be a very big platform. There's an avenue for everybody as far as education, awakening, awareness. And it's like I say, it's not a judgment. It's like, let's look at how this transpired. And that's what a lot of Bitcoiners know because they look at money and how we are, in a dollar that is so debased right now. Where's the value? Well, we lost the value of the dollar back in the 70s. And then we basically started stacking fake commodity value on top of the dollar that didn't have any value anymore. Whenever you do that, you lose value of anything that you touch. And so if you look at food in the same way, that's in the 70s, look at us now with seed oils, how hazardous they are to human health. They are. It's, rapeseed is canola oil, right? Canola
mhm,
oil is rapeseed. Rapeseed was outlawed by the FDA in 1956 by human consumption for any type of human consumption. I mean, nobody knows that. And they've done such a good psyop on our food that once you take one little step into canola, then you're going to
mhm.
open up a freaking rabbit hole that just really exposed. It's not hard to get into. Once you get into there in the Bitcoin space, we have so much great intelligence, education, platforms that you can really look at yourself and say, now I know why I desire what I desire. I want to change.
I think that's so important, and I love, when we're trying to make personal changes, whether it's our eating habits, whether it's going and working out, whether it's our money habits, whether it's anything like that. Like, you need to understand your why for sure.
Sure.
And what drives you, what's your motivation for, you know, why you act a certain way, why you do a certain thing. And I think, you know, we owe that to ourselves so that we can become the best versions of ourselves, and that we can, design this world that we wish to live in and leave for our children and our children's children. And so, I really like that about, really, like, why do you desire what you desire? It's a very important question uh, to unpack. Part of, like, some
Hmm.
of the work I'm doing in this other project, 11X project, I talk about getting your MeHD, and, like, you really got to
I
know
like that.
yourself, because a lot of us
Yeah.
don't know ourselves, and we're operating on autopilot that has been programmed mostly from the external world, that is more manipulative than we even understand, right? The food industry is manipulating
Hmm.
us, the medical industry is manipulating us, obviously all through social media. The finance world is manipulating us, and we don't even know it. And that's kind of the
Hmm.
scary part. Like, we're being told all these things, and because we're overwhelmed with all this information, we kind of throw our hands up at some point, and we're like, it's too much for me. I want to just go over here and hang out with my friends,
It
or
is.
check out. And so, being a Bitcoiner now, it's like you really do get the value of do your own research, and how important that is,
Yeah.
on in all the categories of life. And so this is why I think it's so important, with what you're up to, with fixing the food, fixing the money, fixing the world, and
Right.
so let's talk about the tour. Let's talk about the project. Like, tell me, I want the listeners to understand where you're going, and what are you hoping to achieve
Sure.
by doing this adventure, this great road trip.
Well, I'm leveraging on our past. I know you have traveled around the country and went and saw concerts, right? I mean, you've done it
Yeah.
all. You're a DJ. I mean, you've been all
Wickety
over the
whack.
world doing this stuff. Here you go. But that's something that's not being seen right now. And I
Yeah.
used to road trip across the United States. I've been across the United States, I don't know how many times. And I like traveling, whenever I was young, I got into working in resorts because it was a way for me to travel. I was poor, I grew up kind of poor, not too rich, not too poor, whatever. I didn't have the means, but I found out if I worked in Maine, that I could road trip to Maine and spend a month road tripping to Maine, go make some money, then road trip back to Texas,
Cool.
and saw the country doing that. So and being right now, Texas Slim, people know who Texas Slim is. I want to bring, everything that I'm doing. It's tired to get away from the screen for me.
Yeah.
I want to go out there and be clean to where I can help educate and bring some awareness in a very fun way. And it's called the Texas to Tennessee Barn Raising Tour. And what it
Okay.
is, it's like we're going to go out and shake some ranchers' hands. If it can be 2 weeks or it can be 2 years, I don't care. I'm going to do it because that's what I do. I do what I say I want to do. And so I want to party to everybody's life now. I want to bring education, awareness. I want to show some good ranches. I want to show some great Bitcoin meetups. I want to orange pill the rancher and ranch
Mhm.
pill the Bitcoiners or just the
Yeah.
common
Woo,
folk.
woo.
And building that bridge and bringing some music into it, bringing some groove into it, bringing little clips from here, video here. Let's create a conversation, and I'll go out there and I'll lead the way. We're having that conference in Colorado, in July, and I want everything to point at Colorado because we're going to have a lot of great education, a call to action on a lifestyle that I believe the Beef Initiative is starting to establish. And it starts with understanding the sources of the seed of your nutrition. I do beef because I'm from Texas. That's what we have. We're established as a state and a republic because of the cow. And I want to bring beef to awareness, but it's so much more. It's any type of animal protein, the full impact of good regenerative nutrition. And even with the produce, this is not a carnivore or a vegan issue. This is getting back to pure, clean food again, like our grandparents did. And if I can do it, and I can do a video log, and I can show people, these are the people out here that are wanting to feed you. Let's create a market access. contact this person. If you're in Virginia, here you go. Here's your farmer rancher. If you're in Louisiana, here you go. If you're in Maryland, here you go. You know, wherever I go, South Carolina, North Carolina, Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, I'm going to all of these states and I'm going to go shake a rancher's hand and then I'm going to show everybody this is how you do it. And I'm going to orange peel people. I'm going to orange peel the rancher. I just did we put together a webinar series that is an educational model that is directed at the farmer and rancher of the United States of America and Canada right now. And it's going to be something that they can leverage into, you know, their lifestyle. As we're doing the education for the rancher, you know, that's where everybody starts learning what the rancher does well. It's going to be a full-on educational series. So once again, we're bridging those gaps, and that's what the Texas to Tennessee tour is. The one thing that I find very valuable to me as far as this tour, it's kicking off a scholarship program that the Beef Initiative has established. It's backed by one full Bitcoin, and people are going to be
Wow.
able to donate into that. And what we're going to do is each time that we have a rancher that comes into the Beef Initiative and they follow the protocol of regenerative farming and ranching, in due time, they will get to have a scholarship in their name that they get to give away to somebody. Steward that scholarship for that rancher with that base layer value of a Bitcoin. We'll teach people how to leverage in the fiat world to where we can do some good for awareness, education for a younger generation that gets to travel out to a ranch and work. Get to go to another ranch, get to go to another ranch for one full year. They get to bop around the country and go learn how to be a regenerative farmer and rancher.
Wow, that's exciting. Like, what a cool way to combine both of those. Can you explain to everybody here, like, what's regenerative farming and agriculture and ranching? What's the difference between that versus, the traditional, what you're seeing right now,
Sure.
that the big companies are doing or the big ranchers are doing?
One thing that people don't understand is way before we got here, regenerative farming and ranching is how the earth survived. It's how soil survived. It's basically the oasis landed in the States was regenerative. And what that means is that the animals are used as a land tool to basically regrow soil. And that's something that we have lost, especially in our lifetimes. Um,
Mhm.
and I don't like to I don't like to really pick a fight with the companies. They're there, they've done what they've done, that's that's what they do. We went into something called monocropping in the 70s,
Mhm.
and in 1973, Eric Butts of the Nixon administration said, "You're going to go big or you're going to go home," and he told this to the American farmer and rancher. What he meant by that is we're going to go fence to fence with our crops now. We're going to use herbicides, pesticides, chemicals to grow all of this. We're going to do it in a new engineering. We're going to do it with chemical solutions instead of a regenerative model that got us here. Whenever you're a regenerative farmer and rancher, you do use those to regrow the soil. You just kiss the ground. Told me about that movie,
Mhm.
and I've watched it now. That's an approach into understanding what regenerative farming and ranching is. The soil is our source of the seed of our life, and we've
Yeah.
destroyed it the last 50 years. We've absolutely devastated it. And the big chemicals right now are trying to change the narrative. They're trying.
You're frozen, Slim. Oh, no. Is it me frozen or you frozen? Ah! Slim, I know just as you start talking about chemical companies, it freezes. Uh-oh. Are they watching us? Oh, I don't know if it's me that's frozen or you, but I'm gonna keep talking. So, Slim, where are you? Um, yeah. Oh, it's you. There you go. Hi, honey.
That happens to me quite often. The internet just goes off when I start talking about the chemical
Dude,
companies.
seriously, I just said that. Like when it went off, I was like, "Oh, it's interesting. It just went off when you were mentioning the chemical companies." Like,
Right.
I
Yeah.
don't doubt any of that. Like literally, I wouldn't be surprised at
Yeah.
that. um,
Well, it's funny because I have analytics. I wrote The Harvest of Deception in the beginning, It's about a 10,000 page article, and it's on my Substack, and that's where a good place for people to start to get that base layer understanding of what's going on, where we come from, and kind of where we're going. And
Mhm.
believe it or not, if we do not get to the source of the seed of the soil again, then we're in for a lot of carnage as far as nutrition, lifestyles. There's something that is a lot bigger right now with this food industry shift that's going on. That's why regenerative farming and ranching is really going to be a hot topic for the next 10 years. We have to seize the moment right now.
And do you think we've got to me, it seems like there's two things that we need. We need to have, a yes from all of the ranchers and the ag community. And then we need to have a yes from politics and legislation to stop funding and subsidizing all the crap that we're doing that's hurting our country and the world in general. Like, do we have those in place, or are we going to be like
Mhm.
continuing to battle because of the chemical companies and their influence?
I'll be 100% transparent with you. We're not going to, this is not a high percentage game here. In this beginning, we're looking at a small population of people that is going to come along with it right now. And that's just the reality of the situation. I see, especially coming from the Bitcoin ethos and state of mind, is that we're building a basically parallel circular economy that is going to give decentralized access money and decentralized access health, decentralized access communication, centralized access to our future. Not everybody's going to come along with this. A lot of people, they don't want to know anything about this. It's confusing to them, but that's what we do. It's one lamb at a time. It's one person at a time. It's one regenerative farmer and rancher at a time. And the biggest thing that I see for the beef initiative is a value add for the rancher. They can come into our platform and they can have a voice again. And so that's why it takes me going out there, boots on the ground, to meet these individuals, ranchers and farmers and producers. And when I start doing that, we build an algorithm. You and I are trying to build an algorithm right here that people just kind of come join in. Let's FOMO everybody in here. We're going to do it with peace, love, and some good grooves and stuff like that. But what people need to understand, this is a lifestyle change, that you do have to look at your consumption model, that you really need to understand that if you are not intentional, a sense of agency of what you consume from food, video, audio, you're going to be confused in ways that you don't understand. And if we can get that message across with, not authoritative, but with a sense of, truth and compassion and
I'm losing you again, Slim. Slim. Yeah, you're coming. I know you'll come bounce back. But yeah, we do need to get the messaging across, everybody, with compassion and one at a time. But this morning I was on listening to Spaces from Swan, and Alex was talking about um oh, there you are. Hey.
sorry, man, it's out of
It's o
my control.
it's okay. Um, but yeah, the compassionate conversations is where we dropped there, like that you were
Yeah, we
saying.
have to have these compassionate conversations with everybody. We have to let them know that this isn't a judgment, that
Yeah.
this is actually a very good avenue and a path to create a new lifestyle, that you don't have to have all this fear and anxiety. A lot of people don't understand that over 70% of Americans are suffering from some form of anxiety right now. Well, that's
Yep.
because of nutritional depletion. And we have to educate. We have to educate right now. 78% of Americans take prescription drugs.
Yeah.
78% of Americans are either obese or overweight. One out of two of us is either diabetic or pre-diabetic. 46%
Wow.
of our children between the ages of 5 and 11 are overweight and headed towards diabetes. These are facts. These are from the FDA, the letter, organizational structures that we have in the government. These are facts.
Mhm.
We are metabolically bankrupt as a nation right now, and people need to accept that that's the truth. And it's but we have to do this collective type of awareness campaign, and we have to hit it on. We have to leverage as much as we can. We have to get a new store of value of understanding.
Yeah, we do. And I really agree with you there. I think, one way to control a population is to keep them numb, dumb, sick, scared, and broke. And it's
Yep.
working. And people are making decisions that they may not make if they were fully resourced with the right amount of internal energy and with mental energy and with a feeling of security and a feeling of uh, confidence, right? And so there is a giant mental health crisis going on right now. And you're right, because it's not just mental health, it's not just anxiety. There's all these roots of little seeds of like, why are we feeling this way, right? And like, I don't know if I
Mm-hmm.
spoke about this with you before, but um I had a huge breakdown about 5.5 years ago. And it was, all these different things going on in my life. I was hitting menopause and moving and just, all the ingredients of like the highest stress things that could go on in your life. And they were all kind of happening at the same time. And the first thing that everyone was just like, oh, go take an antidepressant, go take an anti-anxiety, go do this. I was like, no, like I need to know what my baseline is. And if I can't get myself to a good place with like getting rid of alcohol, doing yoga, sleeping, eating better, talking to the right people, doing all the like putting all those tools into place. And if I can't get myself to a place of feeling good, then I'll have a conversation about the script pad. But don't just
Mm-hmm.
offer that as your first thing. And that's what everybody is doing. It's like, oh, you're depressed, here you go, take this pill. You're anxious, take this pill. You're, this, that. And I'm just like, no, there's other ways, and it's just like we have to understand that the foundation of food and the way we think and what we listen to in our minds, and who we're listening to and how we're interacting with the world are the number one way that we can start being more powerful in our own worlds, and feeling taking the power back,
Yeah.
and you said something earlier that caught my attention. You used the word capture, and I think you said that yesterday too in our call. And it just because I think of freedom and then you say capture, and it's like, oh, you're captured, or are they captured, and can you elaborate more on that? Cause it's really like, it's
Sure.
piquing my mind.
Yeah. Well, when I call, all right, I'll be broad, but then I'll be detailed. I'm going to use a captured phrase as far as, let's say, the farming and ranching industry, the agricultural industry in the United States of America. If you do not follow a technology use agreement correctly by a chemical company, then you will be put out of business. Okay,
Mm,
a farmer and a rancher that has to answer to a chemical company before they can grow their products or be able to sell their protein to the market. If a chemical company is giving access and saying yes or no to you as far as the producer, you're captured. Simple. If you
got it.
in that in so you're not sovereign. You're not being able to be basically the steward of that animal in the way that you used to, or that your grandparents did, your ancestors did. So that's a form of capture, because you have to answer to certain things as far as being a producer that have nothing to do with the cow, but they have to do with subsidies, commodities, chemicals, grain supplies. There's so much that's in the middle of that between the producer and that chemical company giving you permission to be able to grow your food or raise that animal. And so you look at the individual, and the individual, 85% of us shop at the supermarket. 85% of us, our food is basically processed and packaged by four major global corporations that are not even based in the United States.
Hmm.
If you have to rely on four corporations for your food and to feed your family, you are in a way captured by a medical, pharmaceutical, agricultural complex that has been created since the last 50 years or so, since 1971. Whenever you're captured, you don't have your sovereignty. You're having to follow other people's protocols, other people's data points, other people's basically projections. And if you're right now, I believe there's going to be food supply shortages in the United States coming up in the next year.
Mhm.
I think it'll be done in many different ways. If you're still relying in your own life right now to rely on supermarkets for your food supply, you are in a way captured. Now let's go into a more philosophical point of being captured. Data is being used to, I come from research analysis. I was in telecommunications. I worked in certain different labs. I know what data is. I know how they use it. I know how it's evolved throughout the years and how we are analyzed. We are now the product. In the United
Mhm.
States, we are the product.
Yeah.
You, the consumer, are the product. Usually the food and everything else that we're doing, we're just the recycling bin of that basically centralized product that's being consumed by most of us, right?
Mhm.
If you cannot basically live your life with facilitation of a sense of sovereignty and security without those types of data points that are being used against you, you're captured. If you look what happened in Canada with the truckers. If you donated to those truckers, if it was $20, if it was $20,000, you're now on the list. Your bank accounts were frozen. You have no ways and means to basically have any form of monetary exchange with the outside world. That's being captured. So a lot of
Yeah.
people are captured in a lot of ways that they don't want to admit because they don't they they follow the right and they comply and they comply and they comply. And the more that they comply to these asinine that are happening in this world right now, you're being captured in a way that you don't probably in a way that you probably don't want to admit. The cognitive dissonance in this country right now is a bitch, and people need to wake up and say, hey, I need to take a step back and far I can basically live my life without being so dependent on this centralized apparatus of food and money and content. So that's how I look at it. And the more that you separate from that centralized apparatus that has most of us addicted to it or dependent on it, then the less you are captured is in your lifestyle. And so the more that you can, go against the prohibition of your personal freedoms, then you can innovate out of that and you can do it in a decentralized way in which we're all trying to do in the Bitcoin community.
Yeah, I think that's super important, and the whole just the wake up calls of like what happened in Canada. That was like, what? That happened in Canada? Like, and then all the shit that continues to happen and it's unfolding on a daily basis up there. It's just like, wow, I thought Canada was like, Canada, right? It's kind of okay. We care about our people. I was like, oh no, if it can happen, if this kind of crap can happen up there, it can happen to us here in the States. And certainly it's currently happening to billions of people around the world. And it's like
Mm-hmm.
this inch by inch kind of thing that's creeping
Sure.
into other free thinking societies, and we're really, um, it's a dangerous, slippery slope. And I think about my
It
kids,
is. I tell everybody, yeah.
it's
I mean,
yeah,
that's I do everything I'm doing is for my son, and
yeah.
you're doing everything for you.
Oh, you're frozen again, Slim. We got to get you an Ethernet cable for your computer, and maybe that will help you. I don't know if you're using network, um, but yeah, we definitely all do this for our children and the freedom that we want them to have. But our kids are programmed at this young age, if they're in social media, to just think everything's free content. Hold on a second.
Here we go.
Hey, brother.
You're getting good at this.
Oh, it's like I'm getting
You're a good producer.
oh gosh. Um, you know what I was wondering, are you using, what do you call it? Are you using Wi-Fi? Or are you connected to are you using the
I'm hard
Ethernet?
connected. Yeah, I'm hard
You're hard
connected on
connected
Ethernet.
and it's doing
So
that. Oh
yeah,
gosh.
yeah,
Okay, well, heck, we gotta get you,
it's something.
we'll get you dialed in there, when you get back from
Well,
your
I've
tour.
been trying to get a hotspot on the road that's pretty reliable because I need
Mhm.
it, and they're
Yeah.
very hard to find right now. That's by design. Look at what's
Mhm.
going on in our economy right now. We're losing access to a lot of things that would in the past enable us to have a little sovereignty. Now, there's a form of prohibition going on here, and people are going to start seeing it really fast.
Yeah, I hope so. And I think the problem, and you mentioned it earlier, just there's so much information out there, and for all of us to, you know, so many people, like, all I do is consume content and information and try to learn, especially these last couple years. And it's just, I love it. It drives me. I want to keep learning and growing and sharing and hopefully using this to make the world better. But most people don't have that much drive, and they don't have that much time to be able to go decipher
Mhm.
between the signal and the noise, and because they're used to, especially the older generation, I think the older generation and the very, very young generation, like my kids, they don't have the discerning mechanisms in place to ask a couple more
Mhm.
layers of questions, because the older generation has just been so programmed. It's like, don't question authority, and if the government says so, or if my doctor says so, or who says, they must know more than I do, right? Same thing with the young kids, like kids, and they're not equipped to, have critical thinking skills, right? And so they're just
Yeah.
like, okay, here's the spoon of information, and I guess this is what is real and true because somebody who's got 100 million YouTube followers said it, and it's a kid, you know what I mean? And like, that's kind of how my children think and question things. And I'm like, oh boy, this is a lot of undoing, and sifting. And so how do we help people? Obviously, again, we're having one-on-one conversations. You're doing your tour. I'm doing, we're each doing our podcast and everything. Like, I want to help people get to the source of truth, so
Mhm.
that they can have their freedom, that they can have, the opportunity to live these lives. How do we, where can they go find that in a
Sure.
simple and easy way without getting overwhelmed and raising the hands up and just being like, oh, screw it. What do you
Well,
think?
it's a great question, and it's the question everybody asks. And I'm able to reflect. My father was a counselor for 25 years. He was a very good counselor. And, throughout the, last couple of decades, I got to hear a lot of his protocol of work.
Mhm.
And he taught me some phrases in I use them a lot now, especially moving forward. And I'll use some of those moving forward. But I want in the 90s, I did something. I was younger in my career, and I got, I've got coined to do a research article about the division of interpersonal communication, and how our devices basically moving forward was going to create a division within interpersonal communication.
Mhm.
Communication is what you and I are doing. We're kind of through the screen and everything, but we've lost that. We've had two generations now
Absolutely.
that have grown up with zero interpersonal communication skills. So what
Yep.
they have is they have a core belief system that does not really put a lot of emphasis on true communication skills.
Yeah.
And so, as I look at these generations and where they are, and understand core belief systems are first, and letting people understand that we all have core belief systems. Core belief systems are usually, engineered throughout the first 7 years of our lives. Look at those people that we're trying to reach, that we're trying to communicate, to reverse engineer some communication to where we can have that aha moment, where we can build something that, once we get a conversation going with the individual and within a community or a tribe or a group of people, we have to make them understand that acceptance is the key.
Yeah.
And I always acceptance is the key. Once you accept something, then you're ready to move forward. Until you accept that you're screwed up, that you're an addict, that you're addicted to sugar, that you're addicted to seed oils, or you're addicted to whatever it is, consumption, audio, TikTok, video, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Once you accept that you need to make that change, then there is something starts transpiring. The
Yeah.
story is over and over the same thing coming into the Bitcoin community. You go down a rabbit hole. Once you can accept that this is how we're going to move forward, you can get to the source of the seed of your new desire. Your new desire is just like you. I mean, you're prolific in a lot of things. You're not that, but you're in a skill set. I mean, both of you and I are generational X. We were always straddling
Mhm.
that fence, from the Cold War to, stuff to,
Mhm.
a debt economy that was created in our lifetime. We've seen both sides of the coin. So that's where you and I are taking this responsibility as sovereign individuals to do that education. And I think if we can use these buzzwords, if we can make people understand this is something that is a lifestyle, it is a new international lifestyle that gives you some clarity, that allows you to accept things in your life and gives you empowerment to move forward. You've got a group of people there that, hey, start with your nutrition, start with pure animal protein, start with something that you can use to get going. One thing I want to bring up, I did a conference in Kerrville, and we had Dr. Mary Kerr, and she's MD out of Texas, and she spoke at the conference, and she said one of the best things that I do for parents so they can teach their children nutrition, she makes the parents do a 48-hour bone broth fast.
Hmm.
And I said, where does that come from? She goes, well, most people's brains are inflamed from all the processed food that we consume. And she says that going through this 48-hour bone broth fast, people come back to me and say, whoa, I did not even realize that I was fogged. I had brain fog. And we're finding that is a great first step. Give yourself 48 hours to not eat and to sustain on bone broth. We did a bone broth challenge. We did like 400 participated in it. And I have not heard one adverse thing about it. All I've heard is amazing stories of how now they're going into understanding why they desire what they desire. They're establishing a new source of the seed of their sovereignty. And so it's small steps, and it's awareness and a path to clarity. Once you have clarity in life, you're able to disseminate things in a different way than you were before. And if you can accept that that's going to happen for you, you can engineer your path. And so I tell everybody, you better start engineering your own suffering right now before your suffering is engineered upon you by somebody you don't want to be doing that to you. And that's what's
Yeah.
happening within our society, within our food and our money. So
It's such a good way you put it, like engineer your own suffering so that it's not put upon you by someone else. And we do have the power to make some different choices. And yeah, they may not be as like, oh, everything's so easy that we're used to and have been trained to, but we're going to have longer term benefits, from doing so, whether
mhm.
it's with our money, with Bitcoin, whether it's with our health. Um, I remember in college, I took a nutrition course, and I remember my professor was just like, this is the most controversial course you'll ever take. I was just like, nutrition,
Mhm.
and the
Yeah.
the teacher was just like, there's always some new thing that keeps coming up that everybody is promoting, the different, diet of the year fad, or the different, food pyramid, whatever, all the things that everybody's got their own reasons for why they're promoting that type of a diet, right? Um, and so to me,
Yeah.
I want to play devil's advocate here with you with beef, because obviously we have a lot of people out there, especially in the peace, love, and granola community who are vegetarians or vegan, and you know, so there's that whole conversation about animal protein, and getting the folks, to understand why animal protein is important. But then the second layer of that part is, the story about, the methane and the cows, and aren't cows bad for the climate, and aren't they, horrible, and all that. So those are two big, uh, objections that we've got out there. So how are you having those conversations and helping people get a broader picture of what's going on with what you're up
Sure.
to?
Well, yeah, but and this is not a subjective thing. You look at objective views and subjective views, and you look at the, people that are vegans and vegetarians or carnivores. Once again, let's truly, truly educate the human mind on how the human mind, if to where it is right now, it did it on pure animal protein. It's that simple. Thousands of years. That's the only thing that the reason we survived. That can't be argued. Get here eating lettuce. We didn't get here eating grass. We basically used the animals that actually were the reason that our planet was the oasis that we took over. So once again, I come across many vegans, and I have nothing against them. There's ways that you can get protein from vegetables, but on a mass scale, if you're trying to be healthy and being a vegan, through the consumption model of the food industrial complex, you're killing more animals than a carnivore is because of the monocropping and the type of equipment, the type of chemicals, everything that is used to steward that product that you are consuming. So you can be very idealistic about it as a vegetarian or a vegan. But one thing you need to be able to do is step up and say, this is exactly where I'm getting this produce. And these are the animals that I'm not killing with monocropping, with the industrial food complex, with the chemicals and everything else. Yes, there's horrible things that happens on both sides of this equation with
Mhm.
being a meat eater and being a vegan vegetarian. The truth lies in the middle, people. And it's time to be okay to shake that other person's hand and quit fighting each other about this. This is
Mm.
about pure nutrition. Pure animal protein nutrition to the brain is the only reason we got here. We have all the facts. You can look up the cholesterol lie in which Ansel Keys orchestrated on the United States government with lobbying and all kinds of different maneuvers that basically led to the corruption of the cholesterol lie, the fat fiction, everything that we've been battling, my life and your life. We have a diet program that comes out every 12 months. That little hamster wheel of everybody's, oh, I'm going to lose weight. It's January 1st. I'm going to lose weight. And here we go again. It's a new fad. It's a new diet. It's always the same thing. It just keeps on pumping. You know, a lot of people don't understand. A lot of our nutrition in the institutions in the United States of America are actually organized and designed by the chemical companies themselves that have
Mhm.
created this narrative of what is good, what is healthy, what's great for the planet. Get to the source of the seed of your education and then come talk to me. I have no problem having that conversation with anybody on this planet right now because the truth is here. Metabolically bankrupt just our food consumption and the things that are going right now. They're taking the animal out of our consumption model for a reason because it gives you power and strength, and it does. And
Mm.
something that cannot be contested scientifically. Or guess what? The doctors that are part of the beef initiative, we have heart surgeons, we have people that have been neurosurgeons, we have Dr. Mary Care that is a functional doctor. All she sees is teenage children. Everybody that's coming into her office, teenage boys in the state of Texas right now, 17 and under, they're coming with 200 testosterone levels. They should be about 1,200 as a teenage boy in the United States. In the United States right now, that is happening because they're not having enough protein. They're fed soy, which soy is just as poisonous as is basic. Well, I'm not going to say poisonous, even though I just did. It's just as bad for you as canola is. And so if you break it all down, if you want to sit at a table and say this is the way to design your consumption model without any pure animal protein, you're going to lose, especially in the long run, because people that are basically consume like I do, or if you're a carnivore, or if most of your diet is based on pure animal protein, you're physically fit. I'm sorry, you don't have hearts, you're not overweight, you don't have diabetes, you don't have blood sugar problems, you don't have hypertension. I mean, it's coming from the industry itself that is separating itself from the health industry that we know it. It's people are separating themselves from the pharmaceutical industry as we know it, and they're coming forward and they're saying this is what you've been lied to for the last 50 years. Once you're ready to step up and face some truth, then it'll happen. But once again, it's not a judgmental thing. I know some vegans, very good friends of mine. They grow their own food though, and they do a wonderful job. You of India, a lot of people in India, all they eat is vegetables, and they're healthy. A lot of people are healthy. There's arguments on every side of this equation, but you better get to the source of the seed of that food production. Who did it? And when you can tell me who produced that food, who engineered that food, who genetically modified that seed, let's talk. Let's continue that conversation, because being in the stance of being from somebody that's consuming pure animal protein in a regenerative way, you're going to lose.
Wow. I
It,
I wanna bring you to
it,
my
it's the
family dinner.
yeah, right. Well, it's
My
funny.
family, yeah, my kids and my ex, they're on board. They get the whole thing, but, like, my whole other Detroit family and all my folks over there, they're just, they're just in, like, it's an illusion. They're in this other, again, they're even in another world, and I love y'all. You guys, I love you in my heart and soul, but it's crazy just the mis and disinformation out there. And again, trusting that, oh,
Mhm.
because it, was stamped by this government agency or this academic institution or whatever, it's like, follow the money too. Like, who's funding all this shit? And why are they
Yeah,
funding it? And I think that's a big thing. When I used to live on Maui, Monsanto had a huge presence there. Well, guess
sure.
who used to go protest a lot? We
You
did
did.
not like having Monsanto there. And so,
Right.
you know, it's bit by bit that we get to learn these things. And then it's like, okay, take a little action step. Okay, now I'm going to
Sure.
make these choices and not have GMO stuff in my food. Okay, great. Bit by bit. And I think that's the thing that we have to remember with anything that we're trying to do to make changes. Because once you get the like wake up call, it can be
Mhm.
overwhelming, and it's like,
It
whether it's
is.
your
It's
security for
daunting.
your yeah, whether it's security for your computer, whether it's, in your digital life, whether it's food, whether it's whatever, it's one bit at a time. And then just go slow and be patient with
You're
yourself. And sure, if you're like, yeah, I can go do this all, great, go for it if you've got that capacity. But I think w- humans, we do have a tendency to beat ourselves up if we kind of see the finish line, or we see the pot over here of gold, and we're like, we're not there yet, and I must suck. It's like, no, you
Yeah,
don't suck. You've just been doing it this for decades. So just be patient and do one little step at a time. You will get there, and the journey is part of,
sure.
is the destination, right? And so
Yeah.
I think I would like to, I need that reminder. I say these things a lot of times. I say stuff because it's like, I need to hear it, and not
Of
beat myself
course.
up because I'm not where I want to be in all these different parts of life, yet. So that's
Yeah.
what I would hope that people remember. How long have you? I mean, you're obviously in this industry and you're passionate with Bitcoin. You're passionate with the ranchers. Like, how? I mean, in your whole family, have you always been like this? Have you been like, Mister, I'm healthy food, and I get this your whole life, or is this something that, like, you got a wake up
No,
call at
man.
some
I've
point?
consumed no, I mean, I grew up very good. I mean, I grew up in small town Texas. We always had a freezer of beef. That's just how, that's how I was raised. I'll give you some reflection about you brought up about family.
Hmm.
I have a big family of cousins, aunts and uncles. Right now, I've had some my aunts and uncles pass this past year for other reasons, but it's the truth. I have to be transparent. I have 5 or 6 cousins, a brother right now that are either suffering from diabetes, heart disease,
Hmm.
obesity, hypertension. It's in everybody's family. And this is a
Yeah.
farming, ranching family that used to be healthy as a horse, every one of them. In the last 50, all around my age, every one of them has gone down a pathway to metabolic failure. And they all grew up in a
Mm,
small town in Texas. The only thing that changed about all of that was the consumption model of an industrial food complex. It's that simple.
mm,
My grandfather lived in the 90s. Everybody lives in their 90s. That ancestral part. The cousins and uncles that are not as old or didn't come from that generation, everybody's from some kind of health problem. I grew up. My mom used to make me sit on my hands. I did everything. I played sports. I've broken 20 bones in my body. I've got 15 pieces of metal in me. I used to, I rode motorcycles, mountain bike. I've done it all. I've done so much that I want to talk about moving forward because no, I wasn't always the smartest guy. I wasn't always in consumption. I had fun. I used to drink too much. I don't drink anymore. It's nothing. I'm not an angel here. It's just something that I found within my skill sets. I leveraged from my past and where we are right now. And I just said, hey, I'm going to do this. This right here, this beef initiative happened because I wrote down one thing. I wrote down food intelligence. And then I wrote
mm,
the harvest of deception. And that's it. I didn't know where it was going. Don't know where it's going right now, by intentions. And I know me as a person, as an individual, has the power to do that. Because one thing I did is I got busted up internally a couple of years ago. So I was down and out, and I'd had a portal vein that kind of got kind of got over, but that's another story. But I had to look at food again. I had to look at my diet and what I was consuming. And right when I started looking at my diet and what I was consuming, I started looking into Bitcoin. And at the same time, they coalesced in together and they became symbiotic with my research. If I
Mm.
wouldn't have got into the Bitcoin decentralized ethos space, I probably
Mhm.
wouldn't be doing what I'm doing right now. It takes a different mindset. I had to take a step back. I had a health issue. I looked at that health issue and I said, well, I'm going to change my consumption model. Haven't watched TV in 2 to 3 years. I don't have
Mm.
an advertisement that comes through these ears or these eyes. I've cut all that
Yeah.
out. I don't do anything. I design my own consumption model. I'm the happiest I've ever been. Yeah, I've made mistakes in the past as far as, consumption, as we all have. We've
Mhm.
had too much fun or we've, been gluttonous, whatever it is, it's in the past. Right now, I'm not a dietitian. I'm not a nutritionist. I'm not a doctor. I'm just a small town Texas boy that's got a skill set and I'm going to leverage it. And I'm going to scream from a rooftop and a mountaintop and tell people that there's something bigger going on here and you need to pay attention.
Yes. I'm gonna support you screaming from the rooftop, Slim. I love you. Um, yeah,
I
this is
know. Let's have
great. I
fun.
mean,
Well, that's why.
yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No,
We got a
I was
delay there,
just
but go ahead. No,
celebrating you.
I
Yeah,
want you
that's
to
it.
do. Well, thing that I want to say, and I grew up in, I was a child of the 70s. You were, we
Mhm.
had these were very interesting times. We had gas that
Yeah,
we had to, gas prices went ours, we got shitty cars in the 70s. We had great muscle cars in the 60s. There's a lot of things that happened in the 70s. One thing that we did get is we got to learn how to groove at a young age. You and I listened
mhm.
to a lot of music growing up. And
Yeah.
music's always been very key. I love listening to music. It's just something I'm very educated in. Not as good as you, but I'm trying to catch up. But what I
There's
see is
no
it's always given me right. One thing that I want people to understand is that, creating your vibration, loud that vibration of good soul and good to your life is something that is variable. And when I saw you for the first time, you were out doing an island hop or something like that. I listened to your vibration and your groove. It's about music. It's about spirit. And that's what we need to
yeah,
bring and kind of in the Bitcoin community. I want to kind of bring a new life into this. We get too keyed up with the doom and the gloom. No, we don't have to be that. What we're doing is right. What we're doing is a form of self sovereignty that we're going to win. And doubts about that. It's going to be some battles. It's going to be tough. I mean, people are going to come after us, but the truth always wins. And whenever you have truth in
yeah.
music, truth in spirit, and truth in money, and truth in food, man, you can't do that.
Yeah, I love that, and I really resonate. Obviously, it's like I go by the Vibe Goddess, and our old group is the Vibe Tribe, Valerie and the Vibe Tribe. And I really, if you can choose to engineer and design your day, parts of your day, your week, your month, your year, your life, you know, and you're the one that's like the vibe master, the vibe captain, right? And to
Yeah,
me, one of the
right.
tools is music, right? And it can get you high, it can get you chill, it can get you powerful, motivated, whatever, your prescription is that you use um for yourself. And it's pretty fast acting. And there's really no side effects,
Hmm.
other than the good result of what you're getting. And I really encourage people to really become the DJs of your life, in all areas, right? And it's just kind of like you really have, if you're getting ready to do a
Hmm.
meeting or if you're doing a presentation or if you're going to bed or you're going to cook some food or make love or doing whatever. I mean, a lot of people already kind of do this, but are you doing it really, really with like that intentionality? That like, I really am going to,
Right.
you know, set the mood right now. And like all these, when you really are more conscious about it and all these different, you really become a lot more aware of the power that you possess, and same thing with your food, obviously. If you're just going to dose up on a bunch of sugar or whatever, you're going to maybe get a quick little burst or whatever happens. And then maybe you're not going to feel so great for a while. Right. So it's like we have the power to make these little micro choices on a daily basis, to be the best versions of ourselves. And that's, I think, clearly we both love music. It's brought us together, as
Hmm.
friends and as people on this great mission together. So let's talk about your road trip playlists and some music that you're going to be rocking and rolling. And so I know you sent me some stuff, and we were also
Right.
talking about like decentralized music to support the artists and everything. So I've been kind of doing a little bit of more digging around on that and who's building what out there. But so
You're right.
first, let's talk about your favorite artists, and then we can have. I know you're probably busy because you got to get on the road. Uh,
No, I
let's talk
got
about a
time to
couple
talk about
songs for a
this.
playlist
This is
here.
fun.
What are you gonna be listening to on this road trip of yours,
Man,
Slim?
wow. I don't know. I go through phases. Right now, I'm listening to a lot of whenever I rode a motorcycle across Asia once. I spent a month in Amsterdam once, and every destination, I get these coming in, as far as
Right.
music that you hear. Amsterdam, it's Buddha Bar. Go to
Nice,
Thailand, you
yeah,
can get a little
dude.
Buddha music.
That's
So
awesome.
right now I'm doing a little Buddha Bar stuff, and I bring in
Wow,
that
I would not
international
expect
vibe because
that.
I'm
See,
gonna
this
go
is
to
so funny.
well, honestly, okay, I grew up one of the first bands I ever remember was the Doobie Brothers, right? And
Yeah,
so,
dude.
the Doobie Brothers, Fleetwood Mac, all that kind of stuff.
Hell yeah.
Well, also we had George Jones, we had a lot of Willie Nelson, we had a lot of Chris Christopherson, we had all of the outlaws of the 70s in country and west. I'm a hippie punk cowboy, man. I do it all across the board, from Social Distortion to, George Strait, Amarillo by Morning. It's across the board. You cannot figure me out, but I love it all. And so right now with, the song list I gave you for Kerrville, it had a lot of gospel in it. It had a lot of Texas roots in it, as far as faith, but it has a groove to it. There was one, it's like, I can't remember the name of the song, but it's very hillbilly gospel. And I just
Mm.
love the hillbilly gospel type of music because it's got a lot of strength to it. I can listen to something like that. There's no grave is what it's called. There's no grave that's, strong enough to hold me down. Then I'll go into the bar and I'll be listening to Buddha Bar for a while. And then I'll go over into My City by Guns N' Roses. And then I'll go into Black Crows, Remedy. Give me some Remedy. Let's get into,
Nice, dude.
the Smashing Pumpkins. Let's get into Pearl Jam. Let's get into the 90s, which were so fun with the grunge. Then I'll go into a couple of raves in Europe, went to the Rijksmuseum. Just come at me with anything. If it's good, it's good. If it's not good, I'll know. I'm going to allow you to help me playlist, song list in Colorado. So that's going to be part of this tour is you and I are going to develop a playlist, a song list for the Colorado Beef Initiative Conference. I think that'll
All
be
right.
fun. And we let people like send stuff to me because I'm driving, like I said, this is 2 weeks. I don't know right now. And on that
No,
note, reason I'm listening to Bar is because I met Captain Sid, and he's riding his Harley across the United States right now. So Sid, where are you? I'm talking to you on Thursday. I want feedback, but I'm going to go to Thailand, and I'm hoping graduated high school, him with me, and him in a month training of Muay Thai kickboxing up there in Chiang Mai, Thailand. Me and
wow.
Sid are going to go and do the beef initiative in Thailand in the northern provinces of Thailand up by Chiang Mai. So we're going to build
So
some
cool.
motorcycles in Thailand, and then we're going to road trip and video log it everywhere we. And he's got some villages up there that he's already been to. So we're going to go do some recon, but that's the reason I'm listening to some Buddha Bar right now. I'm kind of in Thailand in my head, but now I'm going to Tennessee. So now I'm going to get into some good old Billy rock and roll or whatever. I don't know, Hank Williams the third. That'll be a good start. I don't know. I'm going to let you guide me a little bit. Let's kind of mirror everything together, and see what we can come up with. So
That's going to be so much
is that
fun.
a good
And I love
explanation?
the, like, I didn't realize I know when we talked, you said you loved all kinds of music, but when you said Buddha Bar, I'm like, really? You know Buddha Bar? That's awesome.
Of
So
course I do.
yeah. Well, I don't know. It's just like a lot of people don't. So
You're
it's just
right. Yeah, I mean,
they
look at me. I'm acting like the cowboy here,
I know, right? And
so,
that's kind of the thing, like and
it
that's what's really fun, right? About music, because like you can sit and be uh a grunge person or a punk rocker or somebody who appears conservative or who appears like, all weird and glittery like me, but like you can have like this massive rainbow of music that you love, right? And and it brings us
Sure.
together, right? In our like, "Oh, you
Yeah.
like that? I like that too. Oh, cool. Now we're friends." Yeah. I mean, what a cool thing, right? Like I love music so much because it is a great uniter of our souls on the planet. And I just
Mhm.
I love it. Love music so much. So, yeah.
Well, and today, this morning, I went by and saw my father because I'm hitting the road, right? Well, I played him Amazing Grace. I found this great Amazing Grace gospel, and it's like the best way I've ever heard Amazing Grace in my life.
Oh,
And
nice. Send it to me. I wanna hear it.
I, yeah, definitely. I think you'll approve.
Okay, good.
But
I like
it's not a
gospel. I like
religious thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm not a religious person. I'm a very spiritual person.
me too.
And,
Yeah.
I've dove deep into Buddhism, the philosophy of Buddhism, Jesus Christ, my ancestors.
Ugh, you get cut off with Monsanto and Jesus. What's going on? Come on back, Slim. Oh my god. That's so weird. I wonder if you are getting edited. This is such a weird, uh, thing. I don't know. Or you're just blowing up the energy of the microphone. But yeah, dude, music is the medicine, right? And it's bringing us all together. And I'm excited to hear your playlist. Okay, here we come. Coming back,
Here we
Slim.
go.
Here's Slim. I
So
was just
we
saying, I
had
was like, dude, you're getting cut off on Jesus and Monsanto.
imagine that,
Oh,
man.
I
I tell
do
you, there's a
imagine
promotion
that.
going on here.
Holy cow. I mean, I don't know. That's weird. Um, but yeah, my friend,
But going back,
so go ahead. Yeah, keep
let's
going.
go back to the music real quick. Let's go
Yeah,
back to
yeah,
this because we're on to something here. You and I are on to something. We're going to become a production, you and I, this collaboration that we've got going on. We're going to
yeah.
bring everything into this collaboration that we need to basically get based in, and we need to bring it back. We have to be the stewards of a new lifestyle that people really want to be a part of. Let's get everybody to FOMO their ass into what we're doing, from nutrition to groove to vibration to spirit to truth to honesty to love to, all of the things. They're not going to take that shit away from me anymore. And I don't want them to
Mhm.
take away from anybody that's listening to this. It's time to put our damn foot down and say no more. We don't have to participate. We're not asking for permission to live this way. We're going to do it. You're not going to have a say so because we know no. We know a new mindset. We know a centralized way of thinking that you stand because you are way too trapped and captured in the way you're thinking. So if you come along, you're going to have a good time because it's going to be a party because it is.
It is. It and it's like change can be fun. It's scary and sure it can be, you know, uncomfortable letting go of some old ways of being, but you can also have fun, and that's what makes it more digestible and approachable. If it's just this like, go change your food or go change your money or go change all this stuff, it's like, I don't want to do that. But yeah, let's
That's
have some
boring.
fun while
Yeah.
we're doing it. It's like that's why we're here on planet
Of
Earth,
course.
and we are the luckiest people on the planet to get to live in this country. And you know I don't care what you say, like the rest of the world is really really a lot less well off than we are, and a lot of people here in our country don't understand that because they don't have the perspective, because they're not paying attention to really the big picture of what's
Mhm.
going on, because we're all like, everything's fine, we don't need bitcoin, everything's fine, I got food in my fridge, I'm good, and all these things, and people don't have that awareness. And unfortunately, there's going to be some wake up calls here happening sooner than later,
Sure.
unfortunately. And so let's have fun while we're birthing the new world, right? And yeah, I think doing it together is going to be the best. Let me ask you this, and again, I want to respect your
Yes.
time. Um, I know you were talking. Is it okay if I mention the person's name you were talking to with the meeting about doing the tour and stuff? I don't want
Yes.
to say his name. Oh, okay. So I
Yeah.
know you're talking to Adam Curry
Yeah. Go ahead.
about,
Yeah.
the value for value and everything. And I was putting something up also, I think it was yesterday or the day before on Twitter about, what are the artists getting paid on all the different channels, and can we do better? And obviously Title,
Right.
Jack Dorsey's, one of his projects is so far the best of all the streaming services for artists. However, it's missing a lot of ingredients, and again, we're spoiled. I'm spoiled with Spotify. I have to admit, I've been using Spotify
Mhm.
since it came out, and I'm spoiled because it's got a couple little buttons that I can push, and I can make a brand new playlist and discover all this great new music that's based on the algorithm of what I've already assembled. And to me, that's genius, right? It's math. So let's go apply that math formula to Title, but let's take it the next step further. Can we do like the Patreon? Can we do the Patreon and streaming sats and really supporting the model of the artists? And so whether you're a YouTuber, whether you're a podcaster, whether you're a visual artist, whether you're a musician, like we really need to retrain ourselves, because like I know that as a meditator, I listen to a lot of the same songs on a daily basis, and it's like because I'm
Sure.
listening to them on the streaming service, I know they're only getting like, 0.0004 cents. So it's like at the end of the month, I'd like to look at my chart and go, wow, Val, you listened to Sonatum Carr 50 times. Like, you want to give her an extra few sats than what she's usually getting? Absolutely. And so there's all these fun ways that we can utilize the current technology if we remix them into the new experience.
Mhm.
But again, it's training ourselves, it's retraining ourselves from being the product, which we are right now with all this free content and with this, in being more intentional with how we're
Mhm.
consuming. And so that consumption model, again, circling back to what you started out the conversation with. So I'm excited to see what's going to happen, and on
Yeah,
all the beautiful builders and the developers out there, because all the Lego pieces seem to be there at this point. Now
they
it's
are.
like, how are we going to reassemble them in a way, and then how are we going to retrain ourselves as the consumers um, to adopt this new way of enjoying other people's creations, and supporting them.
Yeah. And talking about Adam and I have become pretty good friends, and it's all because of Bitcoin, right? And
Yeah.
I
Woo-hoo.
went down to Central Texas this past week, and basically, we kind of had just strategy sessions. Like, let's see how we could get people going into this decentralized model that we can have that type of value for value exchange. And
Mhm.
I'm asking him how are we going to do this? So within the Beef Initiative self, Texas Slim's vision, everything, I'm going to that podcasting 2.0 version to where you can get set up. And right now I'm doing a lot of my podcasting. I'm uploading them right now into noagenda2.com. And so once you get into noagenda2.com, you can stream sats. You put in, your lightning wallet to actually get streaming to you. The streaming model, the value for value is moving forward. It's part of the innovation process. It's the transformation. You have to have adoption. There's so many layers of, adoption that has to happen. Whenever I was younger, I was in software development, and I was with a company, and we went through basically a big transformation of online software, of the dot-com boom, the dot-com bust. What a lot of people that are younger than us, they don't understand that this takes time, but once it
Mhm.
happens, it's going to happen big time. And we're there, we're just connecting those dots. Like you said, the Legos are just not put together yet, but there's a lot of innovations going on in the Bitcoin space toward that decentralized value for value exchange of sats. It's there. I'm going to play around with it on the road, because you're going to Texas Slim's Texas, it's his tour, barn raising tour, and you're going to be able to stream me sats. And that's going to go in that scholarship fund. And you're going to
Nice.
be able to pay in fiat, or you can do in sats. And I've with voltage, they developed a lightning node for me. I'm working with John with Zaprite. I'm working with Oshi. All of these three little companies, guess what, we're going to combine into something. This Texas to Tennessee tour, I'm leveraging every one of their innovations, and we're putting it into a package. And we're going to have some problems with it. That's what's happened, in transformation. And so once we have that, you're going to be able to basically see what Oshi has done, what Zaprite has done, what Voltage has done, and we'll be able to go from there. And I think we just lost DJ Val. So, but I'll keep on talking right now, because we lost our host. So I'm going to take over. This is Texas Slim, Texas Slim's vision of DJ Val. But on that model with the Texas to Tennessee tour, with bringing in this innovation into the space, we're going to be able to show people, hey, this is how you can apply it with what you're doing in your life. What is your move next? What is your intention? What is basically going to be something that you can use and innovate along with us? And if you come along for the ride, you're going to see the successes and the failures of what we're about to accomplish here. And once we do that as a group, as a collective, as a group of people that are trying to get rid of the prohibition of innovation, then we'll be able to go forward in a way that I think a lot of people don't understand yet. And it is the building blocks, it is the Legos that we're putting together. And once we can do that as a group, we're going to have a lot of success. And I'm still live with today's podcast with Texas Slim. It's LOVEStream by DJ Valve, Bitcoin and Sovereign Food. On that note, if DJ Valve's not coming back, we don't know if we're live, but come check me out. Go to @ModernTman on Twitter. Go to beefinitiative.com. Sign up for the Bitcoin education for ranchers. Buy your tickets to the Beef Initiative conference that's being held at Rick Ranches in Crawford, Colorado. There's a lot going on here. Come along for the ride, become part of the algorithm. Let's get out there. Let's innovate. Let's have fun. Let's love. Let's trust. Let's build some strength, some sovereignty, and a new form of spirit that people are going to basically won't be able to live without. We'll talk to you soon, guys.